Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching us from. Welcome to today's episode of SEDAT HR Digest, where we discuss relevant HR topics and organizational issues and help to find solutions that helps us to build better organizations and also learn how to relate well with the people we work with. Today, we are back again with our Q&A session, one of the most interesting episodes for me because we get a chance to learn together, get contributions from all of you, and then we learn how to build our organizations and help to achieve our organizational goals. I want to remind you that today's episode, once again, is brought to us by Sedat Consult. You can contact Sedat Consult on 0244 629245, 0244 629245 for all your people and for all your people and HR issues. And then you can also contact our supporting sponsor, which is Quick Fix Creatives. Quick Fix Creatives are in designing and printing. And so if you have any need in terms of designing an artwork or any designing, printing on your marks, t-shirts, and other things, please get in touch with Quick Fix Creatives and they will sort you out. You can contact them on 055 09 0057. I take it again, 055 209 0057, 055 209 0057. Our guests are ready for us, but before I introduce them, we want to encourage you to like, comment, and share all on our link, social media platform. Share it to your friends, comment on our platforms, invite them to come so we can learn together. If you are here, we want to acknowledge you, and so please drop your name and your location in the comment box. I will read it out to acknowledge you. If you have any question, you want to contribute to what we are discussing, feel free to drop it at the comment section, and then I will read it out to our resource persons to respond to us. All right, so I see Michael. Michael says, I'm watching from Cape Coast. Thank you very much, Michael, and belated happy birthday to you. Zachary says, hi from Kumasi. Thank you, Zachary. And we know there are a lot of you out there watching us. Please drop your name, drop your location, and we would acknowledge you. Our guests today, in fact, they are friends of Sedat HR Digest, and so no need for plenty introductions. I'll just go straight to bring them on, and then we can start our discussion for today. So first of all, I'd like to bring on a seasoned HR practitioner. He is the HR director of Valco. Abubakar Kwame Isuman. Hi, Abu.
Hello, Pat. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning
Good
to
afternoon.
everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm also doing well. I'm happy to see you again. I can't wait for today's discussion.
Good to see you too.
All right. So our next resource person is also a friend of Sedat and Sedat HR Consults. And I'm happy to introduce to you our very own Vera Nuteko. Vera, hi. You blend your complexion has blended very well with mine. Hi, Vera. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you. All right, so whilst we wait for Vera to fix her microphone, I'd like to acknowledge Abraham Ofosu. Abraham says he's watching us from Kulebu. Thank you so much, Abraham. We are very excited to have you here. If today the first time you are watching us, this is Sedat HR Digest, and today's episode is a Q&A session. Please drop your comments, drop your questions, and let's get our guests to help us respond to them. So last week we had some few questions coming in. We weren't able, last 2 weeks, we had some few questions coming in, weren't able to finish all of them. So we're going to pick that up, and then as we go on, we would be reading your questions from the comment section also to our resource person. So I'd like to quickly, since we are still waiting for Vera to come on, I'm sure Abu will be helping us answer the questions until Vera comes on. So Abu, this person says that, can management introduce demotion, loss of seniority, reduction in pay as alternative measure to termination?
Okay. Thank you, Pat. That's an interesting question. So my take to demotion is that it's quite complicated to administer. So yes, some organizations use demotion as a disciplinary action. So as the questioner said, instead of sacking somebody, you decide to demote them. But then the question that comes to mind is demoting in terms of the job content or the job description, or demoting in a sense of pay. There are some organizations, and I've worked in the banking industry for a long time, that where the salary scale one is on determines how much you are paid, and not necessarily the role you are in. Yes, most often than not, the role is linked to a particular grade. However, you can have persons doing, because it's a range, so I can use an example. You can have a branch manager in one branch being, let's say, a senior banking officer, and that is a grade. So your salary is based on the fact that you are on a senior banking officer grade. And then you can have a relationship officer in another branch who is also on a senior banking officer grade. So now the question is, if you are demoting somebody, so you demote a branch manager, if it's by grade, you demote him from a senior banking officer to, let's say, a banking officer. Is a person still a branch manager? Or you demote them from being a branch manager to a relationship officer, but they still get to keep their grade because there are other relationship officers who are also senior banking officers. So if you downgrade him from branch manager to relationship officer, and that comes along with a cut or with a demotion in the grade as well, would you be considered to be fair, as in equal job for equal pay? So where somebody else is doing that kind of job but is earning lesser than where, and the grade is such that maybe you start, so maybe a relationship officer ends at, let's say, a senior banking officer, and a branch manager starts from a senior banking officer. So the one starting grade is equivalent to one's end grade. So that's why you have this kind of overlap. So for me, it's as I stated earlier, it's a bit complicated. Again, if maybe you are a bigger organization that you have branches or departments scattered all over the place, like maybe the service, maybe the police service or military or fire service or something, where yes, you can demote somebody from one department in one region and send the person to another region where they are going to start afresh, and so maybe by virtue of the fact that they are in a different environment, maybe that will make sense.
People don't really know them.
Exactly. So for me, the nuances and the complications when it comes to demotion, if I am advising any HR professional or any management team, I will advise against it. It will give you more problems than the problem you're trying to solve. The other side of it is, if someone has done something that requires of you to sack them, please, by all means, sack them. if you use any other means to, so now you are thinking, you are putting yourself in their shoes, and so maybe let's just demote the person, it's better for him. You see, it will go around, and one day it will come and bite you, management or the employer. So if whatever the person has done per the policies you have calls for dismissal or termination, please go ahead and do it clean, of course, by following processes, following procedure. Do it clean and move on, rather than to go down the emotional side and, Charlie, this person has a lot of dependents. What is he going home to go and eat and all of that? So you get into that space, you do something for the person, you set the wrong precedent. Another time somebody does a thing, and now you are, because you did it for this person, now you are forced to do it for another person, and it creates too many issues. So for me, my advice is, if it's dismissal, what the person has done is dismissal, please go ahead and dismiss. Demotion is not something I will advise organizations to adopt. Thank you.
Demotion is not something Abu says he would advise any HR person to go ahead with, because it can create a lot of issues for you. Then I have, hi Vera. Oh, we still can't hear you. Hello. All right, so we'll go ahead. I believe we'll definitely get Vera to fix her microphone, and then we would move on. So this person says, how would you handle a situation where an employee discloses a mental health condition and requests accommodations?
Okay. So mental health is a major issue, just like any health condition. So for me, organizations must have policies when it comes to the welfare or the well-being of their employees. And in the same way, if somebody has is suffering from malaria or whatever ailment, there will be some reliefs that are given to the person, or some adjustment that are made for the person. Sometimes you can have an employee who will bring a note from a doctor that, okay, this person has spondylosis or whatever. There's some ailment for the back. I think it's cervical spondylosis, and the doctor will recommend that maybe the person needs a special chair or a special workstation. So the organization, because the organization owes a duty of care to the employee, you will have to make adjustments for the person, or that will enhance the person's health. You can't put them in a situation where it aggravates their health situation. So in the same vein, if somebody has a mental ailment that the organization can do something or make some adjustment for the person, I will recommend that is done. Sometimes whatever condition the person has is not full-blown or it requires management, just like a diabetic patient or something like that. So yes, the organization can help with the management. And for example, if you know that somebody, maybe because of their condition, if they are in an enclosure or in an enclosed space, it triggers whatever mental condition they have, and you can move them from whichever work area or department to another department where they will not be in an enclosed space. I believe that we should be able to do that for them. In fact, as I indicated earlier, the employer owes a duty of care. So you're supposed to make the workplace as congenial, as convenient for everybody. So if something can be done about it, then we should do something about it, just like we will do for somebody who has any other condition and not just mental condition. Yes.
If you can support any other person with any condition, then you should be able to support the person who has this mental health issue and is seeking for accommodation. Thank you very much, Abu. So Vera is still fixing her microphone, but she's sending in her comments. So I'll be reading it out as and when she types it or she sends it to me. So she says that, so this is on the question of demotion, reducing somebody's seniority. She says, I will not advise any organization setting such a precedent of demotion instead of letting go if findings support that. It will likely affect the organization's climate where people either feel demoralized or build a sense of entitlement using the precedent set as a yardstick. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we have another question in the comment section. I'm going to read it out, and then once I'm done, another person to assign in a question, I'll read that one too out. So this person says, please, is it appropriate to indicate a clause such as any other duties that may be assigned to you in a job advertisement? If yes, why? If no, why? Abu.
Oh, that question got me laughing.
All right.
Okay, so as much as possible, before a job description is put together, and a job description basically details the duties and responsibilities, the person specification that goes with a role. Before that is put together, usually you will undertake a job evaluation exercise. Of course, you do a job analysis, do a job evaluation, and all of that. So, as much as possible, you will identify all the key roles that should be performed by that role. However, because situations are dynamic, it is not too impossible to identify every single task or job that should be performed by a particular role. That is why you do job analysis and job evaluation frequently, let's say every 2 years, every 3 years, because jobs expand, jobs mutate. Sometimes you have to combine certain roles. Sometimes you have to, a role will become so big for one person, you have to divide it into two and stuff like that. So to make room for the situation where, let's say someone comes into a role and then 6 months or 1 year down the line, you have to add some duties, okay, to that role. You put in a clause for both parties to know that, yes, this is what you are supposed to do, but it is not cast in stone. When situation changes in the organization or in that department, or other things come on board, we are likely to tweak the JD a bit. Of course, it's I know why this question is asked, because sometimes line managers abuse that clause where they give you 4 duties, and then before you know, you are performing 20 duties, and the 16 are the any other duty. Obviously, that shouldn't be. So, in as much as we are allowed to bring that clause in, it shouldn't be abused. It is there for a reason, to make room for unexpected occurrences or eventualities. But if you are having to bring any other duty or new duties almost every week or every month, then you didn't do a proper job in putting together the job description. So that will be my answer. Yes, it can be done. It should be there. It has a purpose, but we should try not to abuse it, because sometimes it can be abused. If we are getting to that point, then we know that the JD wasn't done well, and we should do a good job at that. Thank you.
I know. I guess sometimes some people also put it there because they feel some employees who say that if you ask them, oh, can you do this? Or can't you? So it's not in my job description. I mean, this one is not part of my job description, so I will not do it. So a lot of people add that just to cover up themselves. But like you have said, I mean, if you do a proper JD, I'm sure that those comments or those clauses will hardly show up in there. And sometimes to some line managers, in adding that some people will be fetching water for them, will be bathing their children for them, will be washing their cars for them. And if the employees complain, they will say it's any other duty. So it's part of any other duty.
Now that you have said, it's something I wanted to say, but
Okay.
it skipped my mind. Yes. The any other duties again. So I even like to prefix it with any other related duties. So that related should be there. Any other duty doesn't mean that when the person is a teller, you are asking them to do the work of a branch manager or of an HR person, you know. So we should whatever additional job you are giving the person should be related to their role. That's what I wanted to add.
Right, thank you. So Vera is adding on to the question relating to mental health. So she says a lot of awareness has been made lately on mental health, and it is obvious that mental health is with us, and people have the situation. So it is important to make accommodation and even support such persons financially if the organization can do so. So make it possible and easy for employees to discuss and open up about their situation to ascertain the kind of accommodation they may need. They will need to feel protected and supported so as to avoid stigmatization, which has the ability to increase incidents for them. So Vera is supporting Abu's point that the organization should support and make appropriate accommodation for people with mental health issues. And I also usually when you say mental health, people are looking at people who are going mentally insane and all that, but depression and stress, burnout and all those are part of it. I guess one day we'll bring a mental health specialist to come and educate us on it. And then she is also contributing to the question relating to any other duty. And she says that any other duty should be in line with the person's duties, not just any duty across the organization, not related to the role. And again, she's also supporting Abu's point. She goes ahead and says the Labour Commission frowns on this clause because it has been abused. In a typical case where a driver was fired for not picking his boss's side check. Hey, Abu, are you there?
I'm here.
I guess
the reason I said it has to be related. Any other related, of course. What has so if you are doing the JD of the person, if he's hired as a personal driver, if, for example, you are supposed to drive me domestically then obviously I can be sending you on those errands. But if you are driving me in my official capacity, where does your side chick come?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, people are going through things, but that is why Zedat's HR Digest and Zedat Consult is there. Please get in touch with us. We'll help you. Okay, so there's this question another question in the comment box. This person says, hello and good evening. Good evening. If you want to end the contract of an employee who is still under probation because of non-performance and other attitude, how do you go about it? What is the package? Abu?
Package for...
So the person is on probation, the person is not performing, and on top of it is giving up other attitude. So the person is asking, if you want to end the contract of such person, how do you go about it? And is there any package that must go with it?
So I will ask the person, the last time I did mention that as much as possible, the employment relationship is a contractual one. So there must be policies governing how things are done between the two parties. So even the appointment letter you give the person, it should be clear how to exit during the probation period. In organizations I have worked in, probation period for both parties, there are no notice. So because at that point in time, once you've not been confirmed, we can part ways without any strings attached. But if you want to put in some clause, you can say that, well, before probation, maybe 1 week, you have to give 1 week notice, both parties. But definitely, you don't leave these things to anybody's imagination. Then once there is that ambiguity, I think is A, you think is B, and these are the matters that will end us in litigation. So we must be very clear. In the same vein as you indicate what the notice period is for when somebody wants to resign or when the company wants to terminate. During the probation, you can state that as well to avoid any misunderstanding. So as long as you have these terms spelled out, if you don't have the terms spelled out, for me, best practice during probation, there's no strict, because you see, when somebody is under probation, the issue is you are still doing your due diligence. So it's during that period that the person's references come in. So assuming you have somebody on probation, you send their reference, it comes out and says that this person is a thief. He stole from us. We've been looking for him. And then that information comes to your attention. Now you are waiting for the person's probation to end before you sack them, before you tell them that, well, they are not fit for the role, or what do you do? So it is in that vein that the organization I've worked in during probation, there is no notice period for both parties, so that if the employer finds an information that is very serious, then they can exercise their right to tell the person that, okay, so from tomorrow, we don't want to see you again, and so nicely we part ways. The same vein, the person joins the company and realizes that the company is into some shady deals. So let's say the accountant, the managing director is asking the accountant to do things that goes against the law, and the person can even go to jail for that. The person can decide that, well, tomorrow I'm not coming to work. Gives you write you officially and tell you that, okay, I've been here for 1 week. I don't think this is for me. So from tomorrow, I'm not coming to work. That's fine, because during the probation, you are both studying each other. It's like a courtship period. So if you find something that is not in line with your expectations, you can exit. So to the questioner, a lot depends on what the policy says or what the contract stated. If there's nothing like that, rule of thumb, you can just be, let's say, courteous and give the person some 1 week notice. There is no, what's the word? There's no package to pay. Again, in most organizations, when they are setting their policies for certain benefits, they state that this is for persons, confirmed employees. That is done for a reason. So if you don't have something like that, as I said, rule of thumb, somebody who is on probation is not deemed to be a permanent staff, and so you don't give them any package or give them any special treatment. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Abu. Okay, so Vera says the organization should have a plan in place already, so there should be a standard practice to ending such relationship, which is contained in their contracts and also the conditions of service or collective agreement. During probation, packages does not come except there is some special conditions arising from such a condition, where some people leave the option of a short notice before exit. So that is it. What our resource persons are trying to say is that during probation, if you want to end a contract of someone who is on probation, you don't need any package. We don't need any package to do that. Just refer to what's the notice period in your contract, and then you can act on it. If for any reason you didn't have anything, like Abu is saying, probation, you are just studying the person, so you can just go ahead and I know some people give 2 weeks notice, others too, depending on the role you play. They may say that if during probation they want to terminate you is 1 month. And like Vera said, you should have a plan on what to do during such period. All right, so I have another question. Someone says that, is it possible? Okay, so can an independent contractor be appointed as a CEO, or his employment status or contract needs to be changed first?
Okay.
Abu, please, did you hear me? So the person is asking if an independent contractor can be appointed as a CEO, or they need to change the person's employment status first before they do that.
Okay, so again, I go back to the contract. So if the contract terms state that maybe this person will be an independent consultant, however, maybe after achieving a certain feat or giving a certain performance, he or she will be appointed as a CEO. Maybe that's the contract that the person was given. If the CEO has to be a permanent employee and not a contract and not a contractor, then obviously a contractor or the contract for the contractor will not suffice, because per the policies of the organization, the CEO has to be a permanent employee, and so then the contract will have to be amended or abrogated, and then a new contract of employment is given to this person to handle the new role. So I don't think there is a yes or a no answer, as long as the terms of the contract stipulate that maybe this person has been hired as a contractor. However, he also has the added responsibility of becoming the CEO of the company. If that's the contract that was, because I've seen persons who head organizations who have been given fixed term contracts. So they have a fixed term contract. You are given, let's say, 5-year contract. Come and be the CEO of this company for 5 years. Maybe they put a clause there that after the 5 years, maybe the contract is subject to renewal or not. So for me, it is what the contract states, what the person is coming to do, or what the contract allows the person to do, that matters, and what the policies of the organization is. If there is a clear policy that a contractor cannot head the organization, then obviously you have to move the person from being a contractor to a permanent staff. I think that's our response here.
Absolutely. Vera.
Now.
Hey, Vera, today. It's your.
I decided to sing my voice.
Finally.
Wow. Right.
All right. So I guess Vera still has some few things to work on his microphone. Hello, Vera. Oh, sorry.
Can we hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I just managed to get onto my phone.
What's your take on? What's your take?
I can barely hear you, but I'll manage.
Oh, sorry.
So basically, in connection with whether or not a contractor can be, made a CEO, appointed as a CEO. Personally, I don't see why not, and reason being that with such high-profile positions as well, some organizations prefer even fix them so that they can actually monitor performance and then know when to let go without having to go through all the challenges of letting go of a fixed term a permanent employee, as it were. And so if the organization, like Abu rightly said, doesn't have a clause that says that a CEO must necessarily be a permanent employee, then of course that person has can be made a CEO once they have the right skills and knowledge that the board of directors require. So I don't think there's any problem with that.
All right. So unless you have a policy that states otherwise, our resource persons are saying that there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that the engagement you have with the person is amended, or you draft one that reflects what you want the person to do. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we would continue with our Q&A session. And when we come back, our guests are going to help us answer a question on how frequently, as an organization, we should be reviewing our compensation policy and salary structure. Thank you. Please stay tuned. We'll be back right. Hello, welcome back. This is Sadat HR Digest, and today is a Q&A session. We have two seasoned, experienced professional HR practitioners here, and they are helping us answer all our questions. Before we went on the short break, I said when we come back, they would help us to respond to a question that somebody is asking on how frequently should organizations formally review their compensation policy and salary structure. Hello, Abu. Please, can you take this for us? And then Vera will come in when you are done.
Okay. So to that question, I think every 2 years. So if you check, most collective agreements are open for negotiations every 2 years. So that seems to have become a standard, even if you are not a unionized organization, where you need to look at what pertains in your industry. You do a survey, see what other similar companies or what your peer companies are doing, and then you review yours in tandem. Of course, based on your own policies you've set for yourself, whether when it comes to salary matters, you want to be in the 75th quartile, 50th percentile, or first quartile, or wherever you want to be. You then review accordingly and make sure you are where you have stated that you want to be. Related to that, in terms of salary review, because ours is a very volatile economic space. It's good that is done on an annual basis. So maybe you look at what the economic indices are, what is the CPI, what is the inflation rate. You look at those things and you adjust salaries accordingly. But for something major as reviewing the salary structure, that's, I believe, doing it within a 2-year cycle will be the way to go. Yeah.
So depending on the economic situation, it would be ideal to review at least. I mean, the ideal year to review is 2 weeks. But if your economy is like ours, you would want to try and review it every year. Let me go to Vera and get her take on this question. Hi, Vera. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Or
Um,
why?
I'm not sure I got the question fully, but I want to believe that it was in respect of reviewing conditions of service or collective agreement. Is that correct?
So reviewing of an organization's compensation policy or salary structure.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
How
Right. Okay.
often should it be done? Should it be reviewed?
I'm not sure that I need to add anything to what Abdul has said. It is what it is. Our system is not as stable, so obviously it is best. Even though I know most organizations or some organizations, some that I know of, do annually. Some people also prefer to do every 2 years. But what happens with that is that you make the employees worse off if the economic situation turns really bad. And so it is important that maybe you have a look at it. Even if you can't do much about it, at least looking at it makes you understand or know where your employees are in terms of their purchasing power and their standard of living. So it is important that at least you look at it and then plan on what you do in the immediate couple of months, when things become critical. So that's a little I'll add to that.
All right. So
I hope
Vera,
I'm clear enough.
yes, you are. We can hear you now. We can hear you. All right.
Okay.
So you have to look at it. Vera is saying you need to look
I
at
can
it.
barely hear you.
Oh, sorry. I can hear you very well. Is it
Okay,
better? Can you
great.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Let's carry on because I think it's just what it is. Yeah.
All right. So, like our resource persons have said, the ideal year, if you want to review, it should be 2 years, or depending on your economy, if it's very volatile, you want to look at it every year. Right. So, Zachary is saying on the issue of probation package, what if the period exceeds the normal 6 months, say a year? I don't really get what if the period exceeds the normal. So the normal 6 months, say a year. If it exceeds, I think it's then the person is no more in probation or
So again, the law is someone is on probation for 6 months. If it goes beyond 6 months, you treat the person as a permanent staff. Even when it comes to casual or temporary employees, if you keep them for 6 months, you can't continue to treat them as if they are. Yes, so HR practitioners should be careful with that. Someone not being on probation is not just because you've not written to the person that I've
you are
confirmed.
not on probation.
If the person stays beyond the statutory period, if the person's performance is not up to expectation and you want to even extend the probation, then that communication must happen. You don't leave the person in abeyance and expect that, well, as long as I've not told you you are confirmed, you are still on probation. I think that abuse is not right under the law. So HR practitioners should be careful with that.
All right, Vera.
Yeah,
Did you hear the question?
I did to an extent. I think Abu has sounded a caution that they should be careful, and we don't just leave the person in it. I think just last week I had someone contact me on the same issue, whether or not they should be able to extend. Some organizations do 6 months that I know as their probation period. And it is clearly written that if it's not satisfactory beyond the 6 months, then it will be extended for another month, 2 or 3, based depending on the kind of issue it is that they need to address. So if that is not clear and you just give the person, as long as a day passes after the probation period, the contract crystallizes. So the person becomes an employee. And so even before the period that the person finishes, you should know what you are doing, whether you are extending it or you are terminating. And so you should clearly write to the person on which one you are doing. Otherwise, once it passes, it crystallizes. And so Abu has sounded the caution already. So that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Our time is fast going, and so I would take 2 more questions, and then we would call it a session. So, this person is asking. The person says that during performance review, most organizations have 2 reviews, so the mid-year and then the end of year. And the person is asking that should the mid-year review be done same as the end of year review?
Can you? Okay, so
Should
the
you go
same.
through the same process, scoring of the marks and all that? Should the mid-year review go through as same as go through the same as the end of year review?
Okay, I understand the question. So you see, at the end of the day, it is what you seek to achieve. If at the end of the year you expect a certain performance, the review process you will use for the assessment, if it is different from what you use at half year, so half year you use a certain process and you got a certain outcome, what shows that you will get that same outcome if you use a different process at the end of the year? So my take is, whatever process you want to use at the end of the year, because you want a certain outcome, you have to use the same for the mid-year. Maybe at a lesser intensity, but the processes have to mirror each other, just to make sure that you are measuring exactly what you ought to measure at the end of the year. Because if you use a different process or a different system or yardstick, it might give you a result which is not exactly what you expect at the end of the year. So for me, because half year is termed as a health check, you want to make sure the employees are on course with their performance towards whatever the annual target is. So if your measurement tool or the process of measurement is different from what you will use at the end of the year, then chances are that you might not get the desired results. So you will do the half-year review, it gives you a certain result, and you are confident that, well, if I have this kind of results, then we are on course, only for you to do the assessment at full year and realize that what you measured at half year was not what you were supposed to measure. So for me, it should be the same. Maybe you can reduce the intensity, but it should mirror each other.
All right, thank you very much. So Abu is advising that whatever you are going to use to measure your end of year, the mid-year should mirror that. It may not be that intense as how you want to do it, or that intense like that of the end of year, but make sure that it mirrors what you want to do during the end of year. Right, so we are taking our last question and then we would end our discussion for today. So this person is asking that what should HR professionals look out for in a CV?
All right.
I'm sure this one Vera will take it, and I'll
Right.
support it.
Now I can really hear you. I went behind and I did something, so I'm happy. Great. So what should we look at in a CV? I think that the CV is the person putting their best foot forward. And so you are trying to find out whether they are the kind of fit that you're looking for. And so even before you got their CV, I'm sure you put out there some job description, you put out the expectation of the role. And so once you get those CVs, you're going to match it against those, the JD that you put out there. Is the person putting their best foot forward? Are they a likely fit? Can you consider them for even a discussion to start with? And so these are some of the things that is important that we make very clear. That is why you don't just jump in and put an application when you see a job. You have to try and tailor it to fit the JD. Not to say that even if you don't have the qualification, put something there. But if you have that, what you have, put those there, project those so that it is easier for your CV to be brought to the top rather than just put in any kind of CV out there and then you consistently do not get called for interviews because there is a job description, an expectation of the role that's been out there. So it's important that you tailor your CV to suit those. And then, of course, you get the opportunity to have the discussion. Then that is when they begin to find out your suitability, your cultural fit, and a whole lot of it. Yeah. So
all right.
that is what
Thank
I'm
you.
saying.
Thank you very much, Vera. There's a follow-up question on the package for probation, but this time the person wants to find out, as like the person is asking that, assuming the person is done with probation and working with you, but the person's contract needs to be terminated after the probation, what should be the process? I guess I missed that question when it was posted on the comment box. So maybe Abu would take that and then we would end our discussion for today.
Let me see if I understand the question.
So the question that we asked regarding what package or how should somebody on probation be handled if the contract needs to be terminated. Now, this same person is saying that let's have the reverse. This time the person is done with probation and we want to have the person's contract terminated. What is the package that have to be given to the person and how do we go about it? And I guess it's also in line with the same performance thing, because the person added also address that of employees who has completed probation. So get same attitude, same performance issue, same behavioral issue, but this time around the person is not on probation. The person is done with probation and now fully confirmed.
Okay, so if the person, see, that's why I said I wanted to understand the question. So you can have my understanding. I can interpret this two ways. One, so the person has completed the probation and you find out that the person did not meet the performance expectation. So you want to terminate. The person is done with probation. So, but at the end of the probation, you want to terminate. Or the person has been confirmed as a permanent staff and you want to terminate. So my understanding, okay, so let me take both of them. So if in the first instance where the person is done with probation and you want to terminate, at that point the person is not a permanent staff, so the response I gave early on still applies here. But if the person has been confirmed as a permanent staff and you want to terminate, please, what does your policy say? I can't sit here and maybe your policy says that you give the person 1 week notice or you give the person 1 month notice. So whatever the contract says or whatever the policy says, that's what you go by. In terms of package, I don't, again, if it's a redundancy and you have a policy on redundancy package, then you go by that. So it's not a one size fits all. You see, policies, if you look at the way our Labor Act is, it gives a framework. Organizations put in policies that drives the employment relationship. It's for that reason, if you have anybody takes you to the Labor Commission, the first thing they will ask for will be your HR policy and procedures, okay? So that they will just juxtapose what you have done against what your policy says. As long as, of course, the policy cannot breach the act itself. So as long as you don't have any provisions in your policy that breaches the act, then now they will look at what your policy says. Did you do, or whatever you did, was it in tandem with what your policy says or what your procedures say? So for me, that would be my response, that if you want to exit or disengage anybody who is a confirmed employee, do it according to what your policy says, that you handle such an activity. Okay.
Do it the way or what your policy says. Vera, what's your take on this?
Okay, so I'd say that assuming you didn't even have a policy on redundancy or as it were, you can refer to the Labor Act and then follow it. Most importantly, once you have followed it, just know that you have set a precedent. And so if in the future you do something different from that and you have to go to the labor court and they find out that you did something differently than what you're doing now, then it becomes an issue for you as well. So whatever you do, whatever you start with, just know that you are setting a precedent, and that should become a standard, or you should now have something that you want to go by subsequently. And so I think that should be it. The Labor Act is there. Let it guide you as much as possible if you are yet developing your policies and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Let the Labor Act guide you if you are yet developing your policies. And if it has to do with non-performance, like Abu and Vera said during during last 2 weeks Q&A session. I mean, once a person is not performing, just make sure your processes and your procedures are right. Do the right documentation in terms of reviewing the person's performance, and then you follow the procedures, and I believe you should be good with that, or you will be okay with that. But don't forget your process and your procedures. It will help you. And this was said 2 weeks ago. So please, whatever we are discussing, don't throw it away. We need it. Never forget your procedures and your processes, as well as the legislations and the acts and the laws that we work with as HR people. And so on this note, I'd like to say a very big thank you to our guests, Abu and Vera. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for helping us, or for helping to respond to the questions that we have. I also want to say a very big thank you to our viewers and those who tuned in. We are so much grateful. Thank you. Keep watching Sedat HR Digest Sunday after Sunday. Let's come together. Let's learn, let's unlearn, and let's relearn. Please don't forget to share a link to your friends, your family members, your colleagues. Comment and like on all our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, and we are on YouTube. Thank you so much. We are grateful, and we will meet you next week with another interesting topic. My name is Patience, and I have been your host for today. We'll meet you next week. Have a good week and enjoy your week.